In fact, I thought that we talked about the preservation of bishops
Yes.
at length, but it's also about the preservation of rooks. On the one hand, white does have attacking ideas of f4, f5, where the rook on f1 is very useful. The rook on c8, all the business squares are protected by white's bishops. Another approach, which I actually thought was 100% Anish, was just improving the rook and eyeballing this d6 pawn later. In other words, the rook is actually having the rooks on the board favors white. And finally, a move that I'm sure Bent Larsen would have appreciated very much, just playing for h4 and h5 and possibly opening up the h-file, or just planting a pawn on h6 for long-term
It seems like there was a lot of things to do before trading the rooks, which is something that honestly Anish could have done any time he felt like it. If he felt like trading rooks 20 moves from now, he was able to trade the rooks. Black's c8 rook was never going to penetrate down the c-file. It was never going to really create any kind of harm. I'm actually very surprised that he went for this option.
Right, surprised, strange move, poor decision. I'm sorry, that was just poor decision. And Anish is a great player, but sometimes you just come into the board and you pick up the wrong approach and you can't get off of it. Having said that, the reason why I think the trade of rooks is so favorable for black is now he doesn't have to worry ever about the d6 pawn. It's so easy to protect the d6 pawn that there's not much in it now for white. The other thing is this bishop on b1. Maybe Anish felt that in such positions he was going to get in this a2, a4, and in case, well, let's just do it, right?
Yeah.
In case
Which
of was it done?
Yes.
And maybe in Anish's mind, he saw this opportunity to play a4, felt that his bishop would at last become, you know, a really powerful bishop on this diagonal. Having said that, I agree the bishop is very good on d5. Wouldn't it be great if white had a rook, rook to help, you know, supporting actor, right, to put some more pressure?
It doesn't seem sufficient with only the good bishop. It feels like it really needs that backup.
He's run out of firewood a bit.
Black has a really annoying pressure here with the bishop on d4 and the queen on f6.
Right, keeping you honest, honestly tied down to f2, so there's no real threats of capturing. And by the way, just an alert that if you do overlook something, the knight could cause some troubles by jumping to the d3 or e4 square.
Right, a knight c5 was actually played, so...
Excuse me.
I'm not so sure that...
After a4, no trade.
No, trade, and...
oh, there was a trade. Yes, knight c5.
And I'm not actually sure that bishop a2, knight d3 is a problem, because you still have bishop
e3, but there is knight e4.
But knight takes e4 seems to just win a pawn.
Much more of a problem than that. So probably after knight c5, white might find himself
compelled to defend the pawn.
With bishop c2.
Didn't seem to be the idea.
Not I mean, when you traded the rooks, right?
No, I mean, you could still play a5 instead, but now suddenly the pawn being on a dark square.
Yeah. Again, I don't see this as what Anish was intending when he traded the rooks. Yeah,
it doesn't look better. And black can even start thinking about it, playing for an advantage. If I somehow manage to trade off the dark squared bishops, maybe I can do something with a powerful knight. The bishop on c2 doesn't make a great impression.
Let me play it the bold or the most aggressive way to try to justify, if possible, if at all possible,
right,
to
but
justify.
Still after bishop c3.
Right, bishop c3.
I'm feeling good about black.
Understood. I definitely get it.
Right. You want to...
I don't know what I want, frankly.
I think you want to give me a free pawn.
Yes, well, normally I don't want to give free pawns away. I was wondering if I can undermine you somehow with, I don't know, moves like queen. On a good day, I'm trying to get everything, but that requires you to do nothing. Well, and I don't know if it's an overreach on Anish's side to try to do something like this.
It doesn't seem that promising, to be honest. Even in many situations, black can simply ditch the d6 pawn to exchange queens, and those endgames. I mean, even the 4 versus 3 endgame is a draw. Yes. Let alone.
What you're suggesting is even if you do end up returning a pawn than with just everything on one side of the board.
Right.
The draw is highly probable. Maurice, a5. We got to this point, and I wasn't doing a very good job, I must say, in terms of explaining what Anish's strategy might be. You said bishop c3, you're willing to give me a pawn. Do you think he intends bishop d2? No.
Well, bishop d2 doesn't even come as a great move. I can even decline with queen d4 and force you to trade under better terms.
Yeah, no. Anish must have something very specific in mind that he had spied at this moment. Maybe, again, I'm just sorry, I'm groping a little bit here. I put my bishop on a good diagonal. So far, so good.
Right.
Where does my follow-up lie?
Bishop I like to play bishop b2, but I simply retreat.
You come back with bishop c3, don't you?
That's so easy.
Oh, you were going to retreat?
No, I mean, I wanted to play bishop c3, but I'm not sure I can.
Oh, I'm sorry, why not?
Bishop takes f7, regains the pawn. I'm not so sure if it's anything special. But okay, now it becomes a little double-edged.
But at least there's an imbalance that could justify white's play.
You could end up a pawn as black, for example, if you take with the king.
And then after check?
Check, you go queen e6 because you're attacking as well. But after taking on c3, queen e4 check, king h2. You're up a pawn, it's true, but...
The king is... well, the king could actually take a walk now. I mean, this... Oh, sorry, king h2. The king could actually take a walk up the board. There's not, again, white's missing a rook, right?
Yeah. Missing material. There's nothing in this
There's not enough firewood to keep the flames going.
Yeah, I don't see
Maurice, sharp lines, but we can't make it work for Anish because...
Well, you might be trying too hard according to the engines, but this is some hyperspace chess going on right now because the engine right now is saying, pawn? Who cares? Just keep playing positional chess. Bishop to a2, ignoring the pawn that's hanging on a5, and then just simply improving the position of the bishop. Bishop on d5, a monster piece. But what is going on here? Bishop to c3 is suggested, and now the engine's saying h4. You just stole a pawn, but the engine doesn't care from a positional standpoint, saying this position is better for white. Up a pawn is black, but looking for moves. And so I played this natural move. It's like, what happens next? And instead of attacking the queen, the engine's played bishop h6. Still playing in positional style, controlling the board with the bishops. Doesn't look that obvious that this is good. So I just threw in a pawn move with a4 just to see what happens. And now they just say, okay, you were ignoring me. Now it's time to get spanked. Queen to b5, threatening the mate on the back row. You will have to back up, and now suddenly queen to c4 shows up on the board. f7 is hanging, the bishop on c3 is hanging. So that was not exactly a responsible move. The move was going back to move a4. But even here, after queen to e7, already the b5 square is a challenge. And if you were to back up, then simply play bishop back to g5. In this position, we will win the a pawn. So bishop f6, for example, just to stop this rampage, and now queen takes pawn on a5. Black is slightly worse, but not by much, to be sure. It's hard to imagine losing this position. You have to push your pawns on this side and expose your king in order to get anything at all out of this position, as black's position is so solid in the blockade. So I don't believe this position at all, despite what the engines are saying. Looks like Magnus should be perfectly fine if he goes into this sort of line, and especially if he trades off dark square bishops. There's just going to be no issue at all with the weaknesses in his position.
Yeah, he has to be a little careful, I think, still in the position. If he overextends, it's possible that Anish Giri does get some kind of an initiative. But as a black player in this position, I would be so comfortable once I take on a5 that all I have to do is start trading pieces. I mean, I know that if once I take on a5, it doesn't matter if I lose both the a6 and d6 pawns. There's a high chance of being able to hold.
Make a draw with 4 versus 3.
4 versus 3. 4 versus 3 queen endgames are pretty easily drawn. 4 versus 3 bishop against knight will be easily drawn. 4 versus 3 bishop versus bishop will be easily drawn. I mean...
Yes. But quite a sublime idea, I must say, just giving away your a-pawn.
Right. Maurice has an update for us. actually.
Moves. Magnus Carlsen got bored, I guess, of this position and said, we're just going to make a draw by force. After h5 by Giri, he said, give me this pawn. And after f4, he played queen to g6. And after king h3, he said, it's a draw. I'm telling you it's a draw. After f5, now looking for more trades in the position. I don't think a lot of people would take the position he had a second ago with his pawn on h5 and his pawn formation perfectly solid, and just in a couple of moves say, you know, I'm going to tell you it's a draw with this pawn formation. Kind of a funny way to play, but the engines are saying, yeah, triple zeros, this is nothing here. And it looks like Magnus knows it and is taking notes to himself. No, I'm kidding. Kidding. No, it's clear that this position has very little promise in it. And in fact, a trade did occur on the f5 square, queen f5, and now the king about to drop back from that square. King h2 looks good, and despite the exposed king, it doesn't look as black as in any real danger of losing the game.
Wow, thank you, Maurice. No, I definitely want to go.
And we actually have a result over in the Giri versus Carlsen game. As expected, the game did end in a draw. After the queens were traded the opposite colored bishop, endgame is pretty obviously just a dead draw.
Well, again, Anish doing very well. He's keeping a share of the lead.
Though I do feel like
Magnus Carlsen, world champion.
I do feel like Giri
held
had a little more than he should have. I didn't like the trade of rooks. I think that had he kept the rooks, he might have at least pressured a little bit. I'm not saying it would have changed the result at the end, but I think he would at least have had better chances to do so.
Agreed all around. Absolutely. All right.
All right, a fought draw in Giri in London.
Hi everyone, I'm here with Anish Giri. So yesterday was a rest day. Did you spend the whole day preparing for the world champion?
Yes, I promise. All 36 hours went into preparation, 24 of them into this position, but nonetheless, he chose a decent way. I thought he played a little too passive when he took on d4. I didn't expect that. We got a typical structure, and I thought I should be slightly better, but then somehow my pieces got, I didn't really see how to gain nice coordination, and I thought it was heading towards a draw, but suddenly when I played g3, king g2, I liked my position quite a bit, and I thought I'm going to press, but then I didn't really see how to proceed because he was always bothering my bishop with bishop c3, and I shouldn't have changed rooks because that was way too little, but I wasn't sure exactly how to proceed.
So if you didn't change rooks, do you feel like your chances were viable?
Not yet, but the thing is, he already has made all the useful moves, and my moves are, they should be there, but I didn't see exactly. I mean, one way is to go somewhere f4, but that could be a little too drastic. Of course, I thought I'm going to press even without rooks, but that didn't really work out.
So if you want to bet and you could spend 1 hour with the laptop of any of the players in this tournament and look at their chess analysis, who would you pick?
It's a very, very good question. First comes to mind Fabiano, but then I thought a lot of our analyses are probably same, so maybe it's not very clever. It could be interesting to get into the head of someone who is entirely different. Maybe Grishuk, to see what kind of rubbish is in his laptop, you know. Because no, I mean rubbish, you know, under the, of course, not.
You mean it as a compliment, rubbish in a good way.
Definitely. No, I mean because he's definitely another type of player when it comes to preparation. Let's say Fabiano, I can assume what is in there. Hikaru, I can also assume what's inside his laptop. In Magnus' case, there are probably a lot of TV series, but in Alexander Grishuk, I think there are a few interesting ideas there probably.
All right, thank you very much, Anish Giri, today drawing against the world champion and leading the Grand Chess Tour.
Anish Giri not only showing good moves, but showing fine wit.
Yes,
in Magnus' Carlsen's laptop, there must be a lot of good TV series.
Well, we'll see what he has to say about that as we have him with Jennifer Shahadi.
Cute.
Hey guys, I'm with world champion Magnus Carlsen. On the rest day, did you study much chess?
Well, I prepared for some different stuff, but not what he played, so... Yeah, it was an old line. I mean, for me it's an old line because I used to play this line as white like almost 10 years ago. and I didn't really remember the details in the sharpest lines, so I tried to sort of play according to common sense. And I was a little bit worse, but my pieces are sort of well coordinated, and his bishop is very inactive at the moment, but gradually he managed to free his position a bit, and he was a little bit better. But I think his approach was a little bit too minimalistic to create any real chances.
Were there any mistakes that you could pinpoint?
I mean, I don't think there were any mistakes in this game. There were inaccuracies, I'm sure, but all in all, yeah, he should have managed to pose me some more problems, but it's always very likely to be a draw.
So, question of the day, if you want to bet and you could spend an hour with the chess analysis of one of the players' laptop, who would you pick?
I don't know. I probably wouldn't understand much whoever I picked.
So you would just pass?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. With world champion Magnus Carlsen, another draw for him here in the London Chess Classic. Back to you guys in the studio.